All right. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. Hopefully, sorry about all the emails, but hopefully you have the sheets I sent you today. And along with that, you have a bottle of Goldschmidt in front of you. If you do, please start pouring into a glass and enjoy it. If you didn't get a bottle, I'm sorry. It was a little difficult to make sure everyone got a bottle. But real quick, a little format for tonight. Nick's going to control the Zoom meeting. He has a PowerPoint. He won't be boring. PowerPoint, some videos. He's actually going to taste through 5 of the wines that we're focusing on for the month of October. If we have some time, I'm going to ask him some questions, see if he can answer them. And also, like we talked about before, the Yankees are playing in 5 minutes. So I know you're going to miss that for at least an hour. And there's another show on tonight at 9 o'clock, the presidential debate, which I'm sure everyone wants to take home or take their bottle of wine and some popcorn and watch that show. But very excited. And I'll tell you right now, before I turn over to Nick, everyone is really in for a treat tonight. Nick is one of the wittiest, funniest guys that I know. He's a good friend. He's a phenomenal winemaker. And I can tell you, none of you on this call will ever meet a winemaker that is making wine in 6 different countries. I'm not talking about 6 countries over his lifespan. I'm talking about on a calendar year. Nick is traveling the world, making wine, consulting for different wineries, 26 different wineries in 6 countries: U.S., Australia, New Zealand, Canada, Chile, and Argentina. He has
and Mexico, 7.
Wow. See, he's truly extraordinary. And this is long overdue. I'm so excited to have Nick be able to speak to 100+ of you, share his insight, help you go to market with the stories behind these wines. So, Nick, they're all yours.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Thanks for being here. I appreciate it. I'm going to, if you've got some questions that you want to shoot over to us, just put them in the chat box, and Sean can shoot them to me. I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to, we've got 4 wines here tonight. 4 wines? 5 wines. I don't know how many we've got. Anyway, I've got them all in front of me. And why am I not? There we go.
You can leave it on that slide.
Sorry?
Leave it on that slide.
And I want to just make sure that you can hear the computer sound. So anyway, we're going to be talking about Singing Tree, Chelsea, Katherine, Hilary, and if we have time, we have Yardstick. And you guys, I mean, Fedway's been, of the original 3 distributors that we had when I first started my own stuff back in 1998, Fedway was the one of the 3 original distributors. So I was still working for LVMH at the time with when I was the winemaker at CME. So the original wines, if you have some of the original wines, they still had my wife's signature on them, which is pretty funny. So that's how you'll see them. So we'll see how we go. I'll try not to draw too much because you guys have all seen me draw before. So we will try and see if we can just do it with these slides. So during COVID, it's been very interesting. I've had 4 of my adult children move home. This one here is Katherine. She's not here, but my oldest daughter moved back from Australia with her husband. This is Luke. He's also a winemaker. As I said earlier on, he's the assistant winemaker down at Aperture Winery. Royce, my son, has taken a hiatus on study, and he is working at Dry Creek Winery. And Hilary starts at UC Davis tomorrow online. And then my oldest daughter, Chelsea, is actually working at Coppola. She's doing a PhD in microbiology. And Royce is doing earth science, and Kate's a vet. So the first one we're going to talk about tonight is Singing Tree Chardonnay.
Nick,
just so you guys know, this is the center of the universe, which is what we call Healdsburg. And Healdsburg's really cool. We have 280 wineries with a Healdsburg address. This is Dry Creek, which is where I live. This is Alexander Valley heading north. This is, this is Chalk Hill, which is a sub-region of the Russian River. I don't know why they sort of separate it, but they do. So That's why it's the center of the universe. The first wine that you're going to taste tonight, the Singing Tree Chardonnay, comes from the southern part of the Russian River down here in what we call the Sebastopol Hills.
Hey, Nick.
Yeah.
People are having trouble getting in, saying that we've maxed out at 100 people. Is there?
No, I paid the fee. Shit, that's not good. They should be able to get in, but I don't know if I can do it now. But they should be able to get in. You're right. There's only 100 people on here. Damn it. All right, I'd have to get out. I'm sorry, Sean. They might just have to watch it later. Sorry about that.
Okay.
So this is Sebastopol, which is in the southern part of southern part of the Russian River, and this is the vineyard that we're talking about. This is the block that goes into Singing Tree. This piece here goes to Kokomo, which is a vineyard in the. It's like a cult winery, and this goes to Papa Pietro, which is also a little cult winery as well. The name Singing Tree comes from these birds that we have at my house.
These are the singing trees at our house.
So every November, December, these birds just flock in here, which is completely crazy.
Small birds,
and
incredibly
that's where the
large.
name of, and this is the tree that we talk about. The key things for us is that it's on a Goldridge sandy loam, so it's one of the old original soils. It's an old field selection, so there are no clones here. I think that when you drink Chardonnay today, it's always Dijon clones or UC Davis clones or Espiguet clones from Italy, but that's none of that here. This is an old mass selection, field selection. So these were selections that were made over time. They were selected for particular attributes, whether it's passion fruit or melon characters or subtropical aromatics. So they would go into the vineyard and they would select for that character. They'd choose the vine. They would take the cuttings just from those vines. And they'd have three buds on the stick. They'd take 50 sticks, put them in the cool room over winter, and then in the spring, they get a knife and they chip the bud out and they get the rootstock. In those days was called AXR1. You make a little T in the rootstock, you slip the bud and you tape it up and you can grow it. So that's why we call them field selections or mass selections. They were selected by particular different attributes. In 1989, 1990, we had phylloxera, and phylloxera came along and devastated AXR1. So we had to switch rootstocks because we thought that AXR1 was Vitis labrasca or bland airy, but it wasn't. It was actually partially Vitis vinifera. And that's why these mass selections had good compatibility, because these things were kissing cousins. They had good compatibility with these field selections because they were both Vitis vinifera. And so the French had sold us a lie because we thought that the rootstock was resistant when in fact it wasn't. The other thing when we had phylloxera, we had to reselect, because when we put these mass selections, field selections on top of the new rootstock, we started to get virus. We got leaf roll, stem pitting, corky bark, and a bunch of other things. And so the scientists said, well, we can solve it. And they went into the vineyard and they found one vine that didn't show any virus for some reason. And that became clone 1. And the other way to do it was they would take a leaf and they'd slit the veins on the leaf and they'd grow it on an agar plate, grow it very quickly, take the tip, grow the vine, take the tip, grow the vine. And what they're doing is they're outgrowing the virus and they put that on the new rootstock, voila, clone 2. So the definition of a clone is you know who your mother is. You can track everything back to one plant. And that's why today all the Chardonnay tastes the same. This is why I don't drink Chardonnay. This is why I find Chardonnay completely boring. And it's only some of these old vineyards that are still, and this is true for around the world as well. In New Zealand, where we also make Chardonnay, the clone is, believe it or not, the selection is called the Mendoza clone. It's not a clone, it's a field selection, and it doesn't come from Mendoza. So we don't know where it came from. But there are lots of old selections. So I can get down here and show you. So what makes this unique is this Goldridge sandy loam. So the phylloxera cannot live in this. There's no organic matter, so it's like a powder. And then in the cluster, we get big berries and small berries in the same cluster. So this, if it was a clone, all the berries would be the same size. And then it's old vine Chardonnay. We often talk about old vine Zinfandel, sometimes old vine Cabernet, but this is old vine Zinfandel. And the clones were selected for two main reasons: larger yield and gatherer of sugar much faster, which is a real shame, because that's why Chardonnay today, you know, clone 4, clone 5 are mass-produced Chardonnays, and that's why, again, you know, if I hear the term white peach used again for Chardonnay, I'll be kicking someone. And so today, most of the Russian River Chardonnay fits into this clonal, you know, when I talk about warm fruit, pineapple would be the warmest fruit, and when I talk about cool fruit, I talk about grass and everything in between. And today's stone fruit and pip fruit are sort of the predominant factor when it comes to a clone. When we talk about singing tree, this selection has a lot more. It was selected for melon characters, so it's called CSEE. So it's a little bit more subtropical, more mineral, and we also emphasize the structure a little bit. And I find my winemaking has changed a little bit over time, because when I first started making wine in New Zealand, we only made wine in concrete. We never had barrels. And it's quite funny today that concrete's become cool. Well, we would be making wine in concrete tanks for over 40 years. So the other lesson that I got was the first time I went to Chablis, I walk into the winery and the winemaker pours me a glass of wine out of the tank. And I get this wine and I go, Christ, it's great, mate. What sort of wood was that? And the winemaker goes, get the hell out of my winery. Because I didn't know Chablis didn't make wine in barrel. And it's that character that you get. When you leave a wine on wine leaves for a really long time, you get that texture and that mouthfeel and that gunflint and that mineral without any wood. Because this is fruit, man. This is fruit. It's not alcohol, tannin, and wood and vanilla and malolactic. It's supposed to be emphasizing fruit and terroir, and that's really what my mantra is these days when I run around and consult as well. I'm not going to go down there and plant my American.
Picking Chardonnay out here.
Anyway, here's a look at the
guys are sorting through it. Beautiful, beautiful old vineyard. We're just wrapping up here, and should get this fruit into the vineyard at the winery in the next hour or so. It'd be fantastic. This is some of the best Chardonnay that we make, and you can see we've got big berries and small berries going in the same cluster, and this is what mass selection Chardonnay is all about. It's beautiful, beautiful fruit. Little melon and subtropical characters will come from this. Fantastic. No clones here, no clones.
Yeah, I don't want to talk too much about malolactic right now because it's so confusing, so we'll skip that bit. But basically, we do about 30% ml. But unless you understand if it's cool climate or warm climate, when you add the bacteria, what temperature you ferment it. I mean, when people ask me how much ml is in your wine, I just go, well, what do you think? Because it's very hard to discuss. So this is the wine that you're currently drinking, and normally retails at about $25. And but for Russian River Chardonnay single vineyard, I mean, it's pretty exceptional price, especially when you think about it these days, and especially if we don't make much wine in 2020, as you may have heard. Things are going to be pretty scarce. We won't talk about the Dutton. So any questions on Chardonnay? No? All right.
I have a quick question. What's pip fruit?
Pip fruit's like apples and pears.
Okay.
That sort of character. So a little, not as green as grapefruit and citrus, but you know, a little bit sort of in the middle there.
I never heard it called that. Thank you.
Okay, so looking at the kids, these are my 3 children. So you'll notice, of course, that Katherine faces a different direction to the others. And that's because she's the middle child. She's the liar, the manipulator, the bullshit artist. She's the perfect salesman. You know what and of course, middle children immediately start sticking their hands up and celebrating that they are middle children. Firstborns and lastborns. So there's a whole story about that, which you can see on my YouTube channel where I talk about it, but we'll just go straight into the wines. So this is the Alexander Valley. So Claverdale to the north. This is 101. This is the Russian River. Flows down through here. This is Fitch Mountain. That's my house. This is what my office is, where I'm sitting right now. Fitch Mountain blocked off the Russian River, and that's why the river flows around the mountain now. Now remember, the Russian River used to flow through the Napa Valley, and but there was an earthquake, and the Mount St. Helena was lifted up, and then there was a mudslide came off Mount St. Helena, and that's what blocked the Russian River, and that's why it now flows out through Jena, or the Russian River Valley. But we need like another 30 million years to make it a true valley. These are my kids today. We just took this photo last weekend. This is the harvest of 2020, and that's Chelsea, the missing daughter that I didn't show you of before. This is the polite photo. We always do a crazy one, which I'll post later. The Chelsea vineyard we call Guidestone Rise, which comes from a vineyard that I've been working on since 1990. I thought it was really funny that the wine enthusiast came out and said these are the 40 best winemakers under 40 years old. When Kim Jong-un drops a nuclear bomb and we all run to the bunker, they're exactly the wines I'm not taking to the bunker. Because the guys are only 40 years old, mate. They haven't even made wine for 15 years, let alone from the same vineyard. Christ. When I'm downstairs in the bunker, I'm going to be down there for 20 years. I'm not going to take a wine that some clown's only made and he's 40 years old. Screw that. I'm taking the real shit. We always joke about Hilary, you know. You show up at the bunker with your 1 bottle of Opus or your 2 6-packs of Hilary, who are you going to let in? You're going to be down there a long time. Anyway,
by the way, I think everyone should take a sip when Nick curses. That's 3 sips already. I love it. Keep it going.
So 1 vineyard, 1 vintage, 1 variety, all vegan. So the 4 Vs. This was the descriptor that we just got in the San Francisco Chronicle tasting. Got 96 points, double gold.
G'day, Nick Goldschmidt here. I'm standing out here in the Chelsea Merlot Vineyard, Alexander Valley, and we are about, I don't know, 70-80% through Veraison. If you can see down here, if I move a few clusters, leaves, I mean, you can see that we're colouring up quite nicely. A little way to go. This is the second week of September that we're looking about in terms of harvest, and that would be about right on average. So looking good. We love the soil here, a lot of good water holding capacity. We've got a long way to go in terms of holding this canopy on, but we're in really good shape and really excited about the 2019 Chelsea Goldschmidt Alexander Valley Merlot out here in the Alexander Valley. Beautiful, love it.
Hi, I'm Chelsea Goldschmidt, and after my workouts I always crave a nice glass of Merlot. So, I'm obviously drinking my favorite Merlot, the Chelsea Goldschmidt. This one is 2017 from Alexander Valley. Reminds me of back home in Sonoma County while I'm here in isolation in the Bay Area. So, let's see how it is. It's the perfect wine for isolation. Drink by yourself, or if you need a glass after spending the day with your family, it's always there. So, let's see how it is. Smells like black cherry and pomegranate and chocolate. Yum. And it tastes like strawberries and plum. It's delicious. I hope you really enjoy it, and I hope it keeps you company in your quarantine. Stay safe, everyone. Cheers.
Yeah, since she's moved home, she's certainly drunk a hell of a lot more Chelsea. It was much cheaper to have her living down in San Leandro, where I shipped the wine, rather than all the wine she's drinking at home. Anyway, that's a little bit about Chelsea. So she's doing a PhD in marine biology, and yeah, but she couldn't, you know, during COVID, there's no jobs. So she's working at a winery doing micro for Coppola. So it's pretty funny having them all, well, 3 of the 5 kids are working in wineries, and they're working a lot of hours. And I always say to them, hey, you know, you remember when you were kids and I used to work like that? They're like, no, we don't remember any of it. So anyway, I've got a first time video I'm going to show you with Kate here in a minute. So let's jump into Cabernets. These are all the Cabernets that you get. The only one you don't have right now is Ultimatum. I think you carry all the other brands. And we're going to be talking about Katherine and Hilary, and if we get time, we'll quickly talk about Yardstick. So the Katherine Vineyard is actually a valley. It's made up of 5 growers. It used to be just 2 growers back in 1990 when Simi used to make the reserve cab from there. This is the vineyard, the start of the vineyard. I want to show you where Yeoman was, and then this is another block that we used for another project. In 2017, of course, this barn burnt down. 2017 was a pretty rough fire year for us, but everything's much calmer these days. It's funny that we're seeing all this publicity about Napa Valley, but we've got nothing over here. In fact, I can see blue sky right above us. The key factors about Cabernet for me is making sure we take the Piedmont part of the slope. So I want the mid slope, which is where the Yeoman and the Katherine is on this particular vineyard. We look for older vines because the vines produce much less yield. Low yield is one conversation. I don't find that really relevant. What I find relevant is balanced yield, because when a vine becomes to a certain age, it actually naturally balances itself between how big the root system is and how much water the vine can actually hold. And by the way, that's why vines don't burn. So you'll never see vineyards burn in a fire, except for one reason, but we don't have time to talk about that. But it's very rare for a vineyard to burn. They're cane pruned, which means we have really even spacing. So we lay out 1-year-old wood. Again, you can go on my YouTube channel and you can see the difference between spur pruning and cane pruning. So we lay out at 1-year-old wood, and then you get shoot, shoot, shoot. Whereas Americans and Australians, who are much lazy pruners, typically prune to spur pruning. So you get two two-bud spurs, and then you get 4 shoots, and there's a lot of congestion. So I prefer not to do that. In the winery, we don't make any additions at all. We go for native yeast. We destem, we don't crush, and then we don't have any additions or filtration. So, but you'll notice on our wines, you know how wines move from purple to red to brown to orange, especially at Allied's warehouse. We don't get that at Fedway because I figured out a way to make wines go from purple to red, but never to brown to orange. And that's why on our wines, you'll never see crusty shit. Crusty shit is bad shit, because this is polymeric pigment. It's color, it's flavor, it's tannins. And this is why wines lose color over time. I can't believe people like wines with crusty stuff on them. If it's not your birth year, the year you got married, or your first child, or whatever, get rid of it. It's shit. It's falling apart. What's this old thing? I don't drink old wines. I drink balanced wines. You know? Anyway, enough about me. So this is a picture of the vineyard. So you'll notice that the vigor across the vineyard is quite different. And down here we have more vigor. And so the crop is underproduced. So the crop is heavy here. And then, I mean, the canopy is heavy, but the crop is low. Here it's somewhat in the middle. And then as the drone turns around, you'll see some of the, it seems a bit slower today. So anyway, this is sort of, we had a bit of a slip here. We had to replant it. But and then here is the smaller canopy and heavy crop. So we drop half this fruit on the ground. And then when we bring it into the winery, we make 3 different wines. The bloom to hang time, which is a key element, key measuring tool for us, is so from flowering to harvest. Normally in Bordeaux, we talk about 100 days. In California or in Alexander Valley, we talk about 125 to 145 days. In Napa Valley, we typically talk about 120 to 135. So because Napa Valley is warmer, so that time factor is a little bit different. I leave the wines for a minimum of 3 weeks on skins, just so that I can manipulate the color and tannin so that it's really balanced. And we talk about elegant, powerful, and dense winemaking. So we make each wine different. So the heavy canopy, the big canopy that you saw first with the low crop, that's where we get the dense wines. Those wines have got structure and finish. And so I'm very gentle on the extraction, because if I extract them like an elegant wine, the wine would be undrinkable. The powerful wine are in the middle, and then the elegant wines are the soft berry fruit and the sweetness up on front. And so those are the vineyards that typically have a smaller crop and, smaller canopy and heavy crop, which is why we drop all that fruit on the ground. But there, the wine is always more fruity, so I can extract the shit out of it to make the wine good. And when we come back, I'll explain it in a minute when you'll see a little video. Again, the vineyard is old. These vines have never been replanted since I've been making wine there, so that's now well over 30 years. The location is fantastic. It's up in this little valley, as you saw. Again, it's an old field selection. It's California head pruned, and then we have these canes coming off. So it's a dense planting and very old. So it's a really, really unique vineyard. I typically harvest a little bit early. So this year we had 3 100-point wines from wines that I make in Chile, and all of them now are alcohol of under 13.5. My goal is to eventually get these wines back down to 13.5 to 13 alcohol. I really feel the 14 alcohol days are gone, but unfortunately it means that you're not going to get the scores, because the wine writers insist on giving sweet wines higher scores. And that's really unfortunate, because that does not adhere to terroir.
Nick Goldschmidt here. I am in the Katherine, Alexander Valley vineyard. Sometimes I pinch myself that I'm still making wine here after all this time. but really unique. I don't know if you can see in here. No, you can't up here, perhaps. So these clusters are super loose. We get nice, even ripening throughout. Just a beautiful vineyard. As you can see behind me, we're a couple of days away from harvest. The leaves are looking, you know, they're right there in terms of their water, and what keeps them in that condition obviously is the beautiful gravelly loam soil that we have here and the age of the vine. And I've been working on this vineyard since 1990. Amazing that I'm still making Katherine after all this time. Obviously the first vintages went to Simi Winery, and we didn't start making Katherine until 2003, I think it was. Anyway, today is the release of the 2018. Just starting to ship 18, and this is the 19 still on the vine. Still our most popular wine, Katherine, Goldschmidt, Alexander Valley Cabernet. G'day, Nick Goldschmidt here. I'm sitting here with 3 glasses of wine, and everything we do is single vineyard, and the way we get complexity out of a single vineyard is by choosing blocks and styles, or working the wines to the way the vines best exemplify themselves. So when I was young, I walked into a room once at a pretty well-known winery with 200 wines on the table. I'm wondering, how am I going to blend 200 wines? I came from New Zealand, I didn't know anything about Cabernet, and so working with a consultant, we figured out the best way to do this is to put them into families. Elegant wines, which are the soft berry fruit wines right up on front of the tongue, the powerful wines which provide the fleshiness and the richness, and the dense wines which give us structure and power. So when we go ahead and line all those wines up, I sorted all the elegant wines together, and I chose the best elegant wines and made a blend. I got the best powerful wines and made a blend, the best dense wines and made a blend, and we had 3 wines, all from the same vineyard, all from maybe in the same block or not the same block, but all from the same vineyard. And then we made a blend of these 3 wines, and it was the most complex wine that we could possibly make. So today I continue that process. With elegant wines, we can extract them a little bit more aggressively because we know that the tannins are in a lower concentration than the fruit, so we can extract more tannin. Whereas on a dense wine, if we made wine like that, they become too dry and too tannic. So we lower the extraction and try and make the wines more fruit forward. So if I was to drink an elegant wine...
Oh, sorry. I apologize.
G'day, Nick Goldschmidt here.
I'll try and
I'm
speed
sitting
this
here
up.
with 3 glasses of wine. And everything we do is
anyway,
single
so
vineyard. And
look, so the bottom line is when we bring the 3 wines together, and it's never 30, 30, 30. It's always depending on the particular vintage. You know, it could be a little bit more dense or a little bit more powerful depending on how the vintage is going. So in a riper year, we typically put in a little bit more dense, and then in a less ripe year, we sometimes put in a little bit more elegant. So it's a little confusing to do that, but this is how you make the most complex wine out of each specific site, rather than, you know, blending Cabernet with Merlot with Franc or whatever it is to make that wine complex. We can do it from within a vineyard. And, you know, I did this, I've talked about it with Yeoman before. When we make Yeoman, the trick is, we did this big tasting with the sommeliers at Simi and back into that. But anyway, I gave everyone a glass of Cabernet and told them it was Cabernet Franc. I gave everyone a glass of Cabernet and told them it was Malbec. Everyone a glass of Petit Verdot and told them it was Cabernet. I mean, you can't tell. I can make Cabernet taste like Petit Verdot any day you want, depending if I've got the right soil and the right extraction. It's just like, so I love it when the only blend we make is a wine called Fidelity, and the people go, well, I can get the Merlot and the Cabernet, and they go, but Nick, what else is in there? What else is in there? So I go, oh, it's got Petit Verdot. I knew it. You know, you can't guess 2% Petit Verdot. Get over yourself. I mean, if sommeliers can't tell the difference between Cabernet and Merlot, how the hell is you guys going to tell the difference? But anyway, you know, as usual, I tell the consumer what they want to hear. Cheers. I know what you guys put up with every day. It's a bloody slaughterhouse out there. All right, this got 92 points. We call it Stonemason Hill. Sean, this is the photo I took of myself literally half an hour before this tasting. This is my new vineyard. I'm going to put it on Instagram tomorrow morning. I'll put this little video up. This is the best soil in the world. This is the best vineyard I've ever seen in my life in the Alexander Valley, because it's all schist. And you see that I'm holding on to a root, and it shows that the roots of this is an old vineyard that I pulled out. These roots can grow all the way through the schist and still grow easily. So this is what great Bordeaux wine is about. This is what great Maipo is about. This is what, I mean, I can't believe that we bought this vineyard. I found the soil in one corner of the vineyard, but I didn't think it was this rampant, but it's throughout the vineyard. I mean, it's just mind-blowing. So we call this wine the Staircase Vineyard. We haven't released a wine called Staircase yet. We're not quite sure what we'll do with it, but for those guys who come out, I'd love to show you. The view is amazing. You can see probably 40 minutes up and down 101 from this vineyard. And because, you know, I'm come from a group of engineers and etc., I'm going to build a staircase on the vineyard that will be at the topo line. So each step will be a different size. And then I'm going to build this. Anyway, long story. So that's where Katherine will come from in the future.
Hi, my name is Katherine Goldschmidt.
This is brand new. First time I'm showing it.
That my father, Nick Goldschmidt, makes for me. It is a Cabernet, and I like to drink it when I come home after quarantine. You don't get to see very many people, but I make a point for my family to make sure that they're all home for Sunday dinner. And when I come home for Sunday dinner, we drink Katherine because I am the favorite in the family, and they all know that.
Yeah. Middle child.
I'm an RVT by day, but by night I'm a cab drinker. It's one of my favorite cabs. It's got a lot of black cherry. It's very full in the mouth, and it's definitely one of those things that makes you relax at the end of the day, and I'm happy to drink it anytime. Cheers.
So anyway, that's Katherine. That's our most important wine. So if you want to keep the lights on in my office, please keep selling it. So this is, we're going to jump into Hilary. And so Hilary is, she's 17. She just graduated, obviously. I mean, anyone that has a child that's just graduated high school, you know, what a tumultuous year it has been. Plus her school burnt down in 2017. So they had a whole year away from school. And then 2020, whatever, they never finished I mean, it was crazy. Anyway, this is the vineyard. This is Highway 29. This is, what can I tell you? St. Helena is up here. This is Mondavi. This is Faniente. This is Nickel Nickel. That's Opus. And this is the vineyard right there. So that's Nickel Nickel, and that's Opus. This is Napa Wine Company. That used to be Inglenook. That's that's Oakville Crossroad right there. And that takes us over to the Game Ranch Vineyard. By the way, this is the Game Ranch Vineyard. This is Silver Oak, Groth, Plumpjack, Rudd, Tench, Screaming Eagle. So you can imagine and this is Gargiulo right in between.
Right there is the beautiful Nickel Nickel Winery and their vineyard, and that's Hilary down there at that end, and there's Opus, beautiful Opus, out here in the Oakville, getting ready to pick Hilary tomorrow. Cabernet Sauvignon, Oakville, Napa Valley.
Isn't it funny, that little piece of dirt there on the left-hand side? That guy doesn't like grapes. He inherited the property. He grows straw. He grows hay. So anyway, that's why you know you're in the right place. This thing pisses me off all the time. Why is it Hilary always scores more than Katherine? I mean, Jim Lowry came out in the Wine Spectator and said he will always give Napa Valley 5 points more than Alexander Valley. Why? Why? It's crazy. Are you telling me you're just writing something off? Well, anyway, this year we're going to win because obviously Napa's been destroyed. And so luckily Alexander Valley will finally win. I mean, you watch. The scores will probably still be higher in Napa Valley. Anyway, whatever. So I put this up as a comparison. Always 93 points. 2016 beat Katherine of a 2018. 18 is probably a better vintage than 16. But, you know, Napa Valley is always going to score higher. I don't know. It's ridiculous. I don't know what you guys think.
Right there is the beautiful Nickel Nickel Winery.
90s there.
That's 10.
90.
Oh, there. Oh, sorry.
That video is really classic because Hilary is the last born, and she's going to argue with me about what 10 mils is. She's also a scientist, but you see that in your kids, you know, I'll share the story. One day, I don't know how many. I'm going to go to full screen here, gallery view, and okay, how many fathers are in the room? Okay, this is the worst thing that ever happens. You get a call from your wife. Honey, I'm too drunk. I can't go to the parent-teacher night. Okay, this is not what dads want to do because it's a lose-lose situation. If you complain, if they say anything about your kid, it's going to go straight back to the teacher, to the headmaster, and back to your wife. This is not a cool thing. Anyway, it turned out to be a life-changing experience. They broke the room up on first, second, third, twins, and lastborn. I'm a firstborn. I had to learn how to do this. I did stand-up comedy for 3 years just so I could look you guys in the eyes, because firstborns is not typical. Anyway, us firstborns, we all sit at the big boy table. They had a piece of paper in front of everyone and a bunch of questions. What do firstborns do? What do firstborns do? They go straight to the task. They answer all the questions. At the bottom, the rest of the room, blah, blah, blah. No one's doing the questions, only the firstborns. At the bottom, it says elect a spokesperson for the group. In my mind, this is a firstborn thing. I'm going to wait 15, 20 seconds. If no one volunteers, I volunteer. I put my hand up. Exactly the same moment as the other 13 firstborns. The secondborns are like, hey, dude, could we get a firstborn over here? The thirdborns, middle children, are like, what was the question? Because they're all still talking about themselves. The lastborns are like, we ordered a cheeseburger. We don't even know why we're here. And I see this in my kids. So when I talk to them, that's the way I talk to them. And that's why Kate faces the other direction. She's the middle child. Bullshit artists. But we know. If you ask a middle child this, they're going to tell you, no, we're the peacemakers, we're the lovers, we're the smoother. Yeah, you know what? It's coming true. She's probably going to be the girl that keeps everybody together, the whole family together will be the middle child. And that's what middle children do. Anyway, so I'm getting carried away. But it was a life-changing experience. And I thought it was really funny that Hilary would argue with me about how big 10 mils was. She was polite in that one, but trust me, she argued with me all the way through about how many mils we were going to put. I mean, who cares? It's close enough. Anyway, pretty funny. Let's go back to where we were. Well, we weren't there. And talk about yourself.
Nick. So
yeah.
I'm not sure if we're going to go into the yardstick, but let me ask you this. We tasted through all your wines. Why are your wines such a good value in comparison to your neighbors? And do you think it's detrimental, to sell them at a lower price?
Yeah, good question. I think the reason, I'm a guy in the trenches, man. I arrived in the US with $100 in a backpack. And that was between my wife and I. We actually had 2 backpacks, but one was stolen at gunpoint in Brazil. So we started with nothing. And I think the key thing is to work with, and so the growers that I've been working with, they've known me for 30 years and they know I'm not going to dupe them. I'm going to stick with them. I'm not going to sign them on, sign them off like some of my larger brothers. And so I'm not saying I get better pricing, but I write contracts the New Zealand way. Don't ask me what that is, but it's a lot more beneficial for both the winery and the owner of the property. And so that's why we can have much more steady pricing. I'm not saying, we talk about increasing our prices every 3 years. So we have real steady pricing. And then, but I do think, Sean, the second part of the question is, I do think making cheaper wines is detrimental. Hilary should be the biggest Oakville on the market. Mm-hmm. It's cheap. The next cheapest Oakville on the market is Mondavi Reserve at $75. Why are you not killing it with Hilary? And I think that people look at that one and go, it's an Oakville cab and I can put it on the shelf for $55. There must be something wrong with it. No, there's nothing wrong with it. Get over yourself. And it's the same thing. The other two are Singing Tree, the Chardonnay. We just can't be beat. And then the Katherine Cabernet, we can't be beat. I mean, those three wines, I mean, I would argue Game Ranch. I mean, Game Ranch, even at $85, I mean, it's still probably in the top 4 cheapest Oakville Cabernets out there, and no one's buying it. I mean, no one's presenting it. It's total bargain. So anyway, that's my opinion. Maybe I'm making a mistake. Maybe I should try and make so. And we don't own a winery either, and I'm not using that as an excuse. I mean, we still pay the difference for not owning a winery because we have alternating proprietors. So we have 2 wineries where we have APs at. That's quite expensive to have APs, alternating proprietorships at. So it's not that we're making the wines any cheaper. We're just trying to bring you guys a really fair price. And but we're steady. Please don't call me for a discount. Okay, it is what it is. And with the 2020, I don't know if you know this, but 2020 vintage has just caused a huge hiccup in the industry. Do you know how much bulk wine is on the market? On Monday, the bulk wine market went to 0. You are not going to see any bargains. If there's any bargains or price discounting, take advantage of it now because it's not going to continue. There's just no way. There is no wine on the market. And New Zealand had a short crop. Australia had a short crop. Don't worry, there's plenty of French shit, but because they can't give that stuff away because they've never learned. When was the last time you went to France and bought a bottle of American wine? God damn it.
Speaking of that, I assume Washington State and Oregon are going to be in the same boat for 2020.
Oregon?
Yeah.
Well, I shouldn't really talk about other states, but I know I have 2 very close Kiwi mates who are winemakers in Oregon. They pick their champagne base and their rosé and they shut the doors. I don't know any Oregon wine being produced this year. None.
Yeah, it's tough.
And Napa Valley, I mean, as I mentioned earlier, we have 5 vineyards in Oakville. I picked 5 tons. That's it. I'm not picking any more. We're pretty. The interesting thing about the Alexander Valley is Calistoga. So don't get confused between Cloverdale and Calistoga. I used to get confused all the time. Calistoga's at the top of the Napa Valley and Cloverdale's at the top of the Alexander Valley. Cloverdale got hit pretty hard with fires from Willits, which is in Mendocino County. But by mid-Alexander Valley, Geyserville, we didn't have any smoke. So the Geyserville to Healdsburg area is pretty clean. So yeah, it's quite interesting.
Another question for you. Which wine region do you feel has the most potential for future growth and why?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, I think that Catherine's going to be our opportunity for biggest growth because we are planting, and I'd love you guys to come out and see it, but we're planting another 40 acres of our estate vineyard, which is a property we bought 3 years ago. And man, it's going to be killer. So there's plenty of growth there. We have plenty of growth in Hilary because we have a replacement property. The problem right now with Hilary is it's a super, super old vineyard, and the yields are, unfortunately, we used to get 40 ton a year, and right now we're closer to 25 ton. And so eventually that vineyard is just going to die. But we've been making wine from another vineyard now for 10 years that goes into another product, and eventually that vineyard will become Hilary. And then the other one, so Game Ranch is Game Ranch. We'll never have more Game Ranch. But Yeoman, Yeoman is the other vineyard I'm going to move. I'm going to move from the current vineyard to the Staircase Vineyard as well. I didn't show you this, but there's a terrace vineyard on the other side, and that's the main reason why I bought this vineyard called Staircase, is to replace Hilary. Replace Yeoman. And eventually, after I make that wine for 5 or 6 years, I'll move Yeoman to that vineyard as well. Everything else is pretty limited. Singing Tree is pretty limited. Chelsea is limited to the vineyard that we have. But yeah, Katherine, Hilary, and Yeoman are the 2 that we can more easily expand. Oh, and Boulder Bank in New Zealand will be easy to expand because I bought the property next door to the current Boulder Bank. So eventually we'll be able to expand that as well.
Speaking of Boulder Bank, can you shed some light on the phenomenon, what's going on with New Zealand and Sauv Blanc? I mean, the only wine that's really outpacing Sauv Blanc in the last 4 years is Prosecco, but Sauv Blanc from New Zealand, it just took off.
Yeah, I think New Zealand has a lot of things going for it. Obviously, it's the cleanest, greenest nation in the world, apparently. The election, mind you, I'm voting in the election. We have an election in New Zealand next week. I'm voting. It'll be the first time I voted down there for 40 years. New Zealand's a really interesting country. We've had 5 female presidents. We were the first country in the world to give New Zealand the vote. We are supposedly the world champions of rugby, even though we don't have the World Cup right now. But there's a lot of, in America, Americans are really embraced in New Zealand. The British are more embraced in Australia, but we love Americans in New Zealand. And I think there's been a huge transfer of tourism and being in a place, and a lot of Americans visit New Zealand. And to me, wine is all about, people ask me, what do I drink when I'm not drinking my own wine? Well, I never drink wine without a story. I only drink wine from a winemaker that I know, a place that I know, a vineyard that I've visited. I've got to have a background. I've got to have a point of reference. And I think a lot of Americans visiting New Zealand come back with that understanding. And so, hey, you know what? I was sitting in Blenheim, I was sitting in Marlborough, looking over the vineyards, having great oysters, drinking Sauvignon Blanc, and they bring that memory back. And then they buy it here. And tourism, American tourism has been very strong. But it is incredible that the growth of New Zealand wine is unbelievable. Anyway, Marlborough has the same problem. So unfortunately, we crush. This is really crazy. We crush a lot of New Zealand, a lot of Marlborough Sauvignon Blanc, and I always end up selling some on the bulk market. And this year, I'm probably launching 3 more brands for retailers, just because everyone knows that I've got Sauvignon Blanc available, and so we're not even going to put any bulk on the market. And I've had at least 5 phone calls in the last 2 weeks to see if they would buy bulk. And it doesn't mean much to you, but the bulk price in New Zealand about 6 months ago was $3 a litre. Multiplied by 9, that takes you to case. Today, $7. It went up $4 a litre. I mean, amazing. The demand for New Zealand is unbelievable. So I hope you guys really appreciate Boulder Bank. You're just not going to get that quality single vineyard from Marlborough, at that price. And as many of you know, I'm very close friends with the original Kim Crawford. So Kim Crawford, Jules Taylor, who makes Jules Taylor, and Simon Waghorn is probably the best winemaker in New Zealand. He makes a wine called Astrolabe. Between the 4 of us, we took over Mudhouse, because Accolades sold off Mudhouse, and that's where we consume about 60% of that winery that used to make Mudhouse. So that's where we all make our wine. We all work together very closely, and it's a good sort of symbiotic relationship. And even when I'm not there, I've got Kimmy will look in on my wines, etc. And the real Kim, not the fake Kim. So no, it's been a great relationship. Now we own 2 fairly good sized vineyards in New Zealand, and my intention in the next 18 months we'll look at buying a 3rd one down there. But yeah, clean and green, man. There's no nukes. We were also the first country for no nuclear power.
A little backwards here, but can you just give everyone a quick little broad stroke of your bio so that they can reference? They saw a lot of the wines that you were involved in for many years. Can you give them a quick little snapshot?
Well, the reason why I'm very good friends with Fedway is because of my history with LVMH. So LVMH used to own Simi. So from 1990 till 1999, it was owned by LVMH. And during that time in 1990, so I got the job as winemaker at Simi. I was 26. Paul Hobbs was the winemaker. He left and I stayed, and I only worked there because I really wanted to meet Zelma Long For those who don't know who Zelma Long is, she was the most famous winemaker in California during the 80s and 90s. She was the first female, true, and also the first Mondavi winemaker who was not a Mondavi. She was the second female graduate out of UC Davis. She was the first winemaker in California to do barrel fermented Chardonnay. And I always wanted to meet this woman, and man, what a trip. And I worked for her and through 1996. She is unbelievable. I'm still very close friends with her. She's a rock in the industry. Anyone in the industry knows who she is, but she's very elusive these days. But everyone gets a break in their life. My break happened in 1992. I was 28. They made me still winemaker for the world. So I looked after roses in Portugal. I was the first winemaker for Terrasses in Argentina, Cloudy Bay in New Zealand, Cape Mentel in Australia, and Ruffino in Italy. And so I'm 28 and I'm running around the world blending for the US, which was unbelievable. I mean, that job would never happen these days. And that's why I live in the US. And then in 99, we got sold to Constellation. And I did the due diligence on Franciscan Estancia, Blackstone, Ravenswood. That's a long story because Augustin was a part owner in the property that I worked with in Calaterra back in Chile in 1989. And Augustin Jr. and I used to live in Santiago together. He was selling the wine and I was making, very funny story. 2003, I left Simi and went to Alo de Mac. So it's Clos de Bois, William Hill, Atlas Peak, Gary Farrell, Mum, Bonavista, Campoviejo, Marcos de Lorenzo, Isios, Tarsos, Villeray, Brancott, Stoneleigh, Mum. So it was 58 wineries in 7 countries. And then we got, and then one day they call me and they go, Nick, we're selling the company. I'm like, damn, Alo de Mac. I really like Alo de Mac. You know, they own Burger King and Baskin Robbins. They were a British company, but they also owned everything else. I mean, Sean would know who they were. Kahlua and I mean a whole bunch of junk, Jamesons. Anyway, so they called me in the office. They said, Nick, we're selling the company. You got a choice, Pernod Ricard or Jim Beam. So I said, all right, I'll go see the French first. I walk in the room. There's 2 guys in suits. I said, shit, man, who died? Nothing. So I told my one French joke. You know how the British salute? You know how the Americans salute? You know how the French salute? You know how the Australians salute? Because of the flies. Anyway, they didn't think that was very funny, so I ended up at Jim Beam. So that included Geyser Peak, Wild Horse, and a bunch of other clowns. And then we got sold to Constellation. I got my job back. So in 2008, I went out on my own. So today, I have 7 patents. I'm an inventor, as some of you may know. And then I make wine for Goldschmidt, and then I do a lot of weird and wonderful stuff with other people, and then I also consult. So that's what I do. And I'm still broke. I'm enjoying it though. I'm having a ball. I mean, I love wine. I mean, the people that I meet, amazing. And I keep telling you, I'm at that age now where I'm thinking, shit, where's the end? Where's the finish line? And I'm like, so everyone I consult from, like, dude, 5 years, I'm going to be here sitting at your place, drinking your wine, eating your food, having fun. I'm not going to be consulting anymore. I'm just going to be hanging out. So I made sure that everyone I consult for these days is very clear on the Nick Goldschmidt concept of when I turn 65.
That was great. Thank you, Nick. So we're getting close to the hour mark, and I have to say, I built this up pretty big, and hopefully I feel bad people couldn't get on the call, but we could share the video with them. I'm sure I'm getting texts, my phone's blowing up. This guy's hysterical. This is great. I love the Chelsea. I love the singing tree. So I'm glad people are enjoying it. But I would say this. I've been managing Nick's Wines for probably over a decade. We've been friends. He's opened his home to me and my family. He's been to my house with sales reps that are probably on the call. It's a relationship business, and the wines are spectacular. But again, it's relationships, and to have a relationship with Nick and for have him call you on a weekly basis. I think we spoke almost every week, during COVID. How you doing? What's going on? Checking up on me and me and him and his family. That goes a long way. But if the wines are no good, it's kind of tough to go out there and ask you to put your relationships behind the wines. But I'm going to share something with you. We've been selling the wines a long time. We're only in 326 accounts. Okay, but here's the good news. When I looked at our business, We're in 182 off-premise accounts, 144 on-premise accounts. That speaks volumes to the quality of the wines. Okay, we're going in, we're tasting these restaurants, and they keep buying them. Our on-premise business continues to expand. So I'm going to take the fault in not driving this to the next level for the past. But I'm going to tell you right now, in tasting the one wine you have, in seeing the scores, in meeting Nick, I challenge everyone on this call to be a brand ambassador for Goldschmidt Wines. We have it on Platinum Club for October. I truly believe if everyone on this call goes out and sells 2 new accounts, that's 200 new accounts. I mean, we could almost double our accounts sold, but I think it's important to tell the story and taste the wines for your customers. Looking at the prices, I'm not going to go over prices and rips here, but they're investing money into these brands. To have Singing Tree at $11.42 after a rip, or
Boys, we're giving it away.
yeah, sorry, I shouldn't have said that. Yardstick Napa at $16. The Chelsea Merlot after a rip is $12.50. I just went back to taste that wine. It's killer. I mean, really, we will give you samples. You have to just go out there and present it. And I assure you, when you open these wines, your customers are going to be surprised. And here's the best news. We talked about big brands. They can make money on these. They can make money on Nick's wines because they're not in every single store yet. But I think this is the time. This is the time that I said before, it's long overdue. This is the time. We have 100 people on the call. I'm going to share the video with the rest of the sales force. I think this is the time that we take Goldschmidt Wines to the next level. Support our dear friend, not just because he's a friend, because he makes really damn good wines. So, Nick, I thank you on behalf of Fedway. Thank you for your time, your insight, and your friendship.
No, you're welcome, and I love it. And I'm just going to show you this last photo that I just took of my kids the last weekend, so you can appreciate what I deal with. This is Royce. This is Chelsea, Hilary, Katherine, and Luke doing what he does. But there's my cell phone number on the bottom of the screen. Call me anytime. Text me. You're more than welcome. You got my email address right up here, nick@goldschmidtvineyards.com. As I said, I'm going to be in quarantine for 2 weeks. Please make use of me if I can help you in any way. You're the guys, and I really think that the future is the future is 2 sorts of wineries. And I think this COVID and the fire has made it happen even quicker. The 2 sorts of wineries are farm to gate and negociant, just like France, Germany, and Italy. And we're very quickly heading that way in California as well. And so I'm going to get stymied. My route to market is going to become harder and harder and harder. Unless I have, you can't believe, I wish you guys cloned yourselves. I wish Fedway could clone themselves and go around the country, but you guys there's probably 5 distributors like you, but fuck, you guys rock. I love working with you guys. Shit. And it's been a long, beautiful, sometimes torturous, but in a loving way, relationship. So I can't thank you guys enough, and I just really hope that you guys reach out and make use of me. And shit, man, I better have another glass of wine. And here's to everyone at Fedway. And you got to put up with my other clown. I don't know if John's on, but John Devon. So he's an old clown. But Frank and Sean have been around and been rocks for me forever. So, and then obviously Seth, who helps me out as well. So thanks, guys. Love you all. And we'll send you this recording pretty quickly here. Cheers.
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 I'll stay on for anyone that has any questions. Anyone got any questions? I'll unmute you all.
When are you coming back to New Jersey?
I know I can't do that. You can unmute yourselves.
I actually have a quick question. This is Chris. With everything that's going on with the wildfires and everything, and obviously your wine is a good value. I've used it in a number of accounts. What is there any concerns long term with pricing going up? Obviously, because the yields might be a little short from what they were.
Chris, I really like the way you phrased that question. It's not you know, it swings and roundabouts, eh? It's, so 2018 was a long vintage. I mean, we had a lot of fruit in 2018. We crushed in California 4.2 million tons. In 2019, we crushed 4.1 million tons. We think this year we're going to crush 3.5 million tons.
Obviously a drop.
Yeah, so it's going to be a huge drop. And I don't think look, put the fires and the COVID aside. It's got nothing to do with that. I think what we're seeing is the effect of global warming. It's not global, for me, it's not global warming, it's global uncertainty. And so I'm going to finish picking this week. Okay, so I would normally pick, if I look at my 30-year average, I usually finish picking the 5th of November. I'm going to finish picking on the 2nd of October. What does that tell you? And this is not, so I've been picking in August. I've only picked in August 6 times. 5 of those times have been in the last 6 years. So what's happening is that the yields are going down. We've got shortages of water. We're not getting enough continuous growth of the vine, enough water holding capacity. So the bottom line, and on top of that, of course, we live in a bankrupt state, so that doesn't help. So our prices continue to go up. Wealthy people keep moving to California and pushing prices. We got nowhere to go but up, man. So it's a sad state of affairs, and that's why I've always thought that I need to spread my risk, and that's why I continue to make wine. You know, we own a really cool vineyard in Chile, in Argentina, and obviously New Zealand. And I think risk diversification is important, and I think California is right in behind Europe now. I think that this COVID and the fire has really pushed things along in that terms of that direction. So yes, volume is going to go down and prices are going to go up. And I don't think, because of what I said about the 5 years and the last 6, it's not, I'm not saying that, you know, this is a 20-year average thing. I think the 20-year average is out the door. I think the 5-year average is far more important. And let me throw on top of that, the lack of available labor.
I never thought of that.
And people do not want to work for the minimum wage. No way. They can go prune marijuana now. It's like when they legalize marijuana, who's going to grow a lettuce? Have you guys thought about, where do you guys buy your vegetables? 40% of them come from California. Who's going to grow lettuces when they can get marijuana for quadruple the price? The return on an acre of marijuana is $1 million. The return on a lettuce is 20,000. Why would I grow lettuces? The same thing with grapes. I'm better off planting cherries. I get more money from cherries than I do from grapes.
Right.
But we're here because it's a living, breathing product. The people that I meet are amazing. I get to hang out with you guys. I mean, there's no industry in the world that's artistic, creative. And there's a big difference between creativity and implementation, and you can do that. You can do that here. And every year it's a different story. It's not like making beer. You know, I made beer for years. Guess what I'm going to do tomorrow? Same as what I did today, which is the same as what I did yesterday. Don't fuck it up. But with wine, every year is different. We ran a trial when I was at Allo Domecq. I got 14 winemakers to make 5 tons from the same grapes. And guess what? Every wine was completely different. Could have been from different vineyards. And that's the beautiful thing about wine. You get to tell the story every year. It's amazing. Sorry, Chris, I got off subject a little bit. You know, sometimes you get carried away.
That's all right. It's all right. I enjoyed it.
Seth, what did I miss? Well, you're perfect. You're muted.
I think we hit on all the highlights here. No sheep joke, though, so we'll have a 1.
I have 2 questions.
Yeah.
Yes.
1, what's the dog's name? And 2, how did you know you would have enough time to have Vineyard for every child?
Well, no, you'll notice that I don't have any, It all started in 2000. Oh, we have 4 dogs. So the black one is called Roxy. She's 14. Kiri Takanawa, named for the very famous opera singer from New Zealand. She's the Ridgeback. Casper's the Eskimo. But my father was the 4th guy to the South Pole, so that's why we have a husky. And then the 4th dog is called Butters because she's a blend. Anyway, so what was I talking about? I got carried away.
How did you know you'd have enough time for all the vineyards?
Oh, so I don't make. So in the year 2000, I was telling my children the story about making wine in Chile. In Chile, back in the late 80s, 90s, Pinochet was late 80s, Pinochet was in power. And I don't know if you've ever lived under a dictatorship before, but it's quite interesting. So the way you control people is you cut off food, oil, power. And so one of the things that he did was cutting off power. So making wine without electricity is very difficult. So we'd have to light a fire if we wanted to add yeast to a tank just so we get hot water. When I wanted to cool the tank, so I'd put the manguera, the hoses in the canal and turn the pump on and to cool it. Anyway, so I was telling my kids, we can make wine with electricity. They're like, yeah, right, Dad, whatever. So we went out, we picked 5 ton of Cabernet from the Katherine vineyard. We hand destemmed it, which takes 2 days to hand destem half a ton. The girls did the pigeage, the boys did the punch down. We basket pressed it, we put it in a barrel, and we make a wine every year called 5 Gold Hands Unplugged. And it's a really cool project. So there's 3 things that don't sell: boys' names, dogs, and blue labels. I refuse to make wine with my sons. So the joke has always been, I need to make wines with my daughters. And I've told that story forever. Dogs' names, blue labels, and boys' names. So Chelsea goes, I really like to make a wine with you. And so we started making wine from the estate, from the Salmon's Leap vineyard. You don't get that because it's Dry Creek. You get the Alexander Valley, but she's part of that one too. And I really notice when I make wine with Chelsea, the wine has to be perfect because she's firstborn, right? It has to be, when you drink the Chelsea Merlot, it's smooth, round, supple, linear. When I drink it,
First is always perfect.
the complete wine. Kate is completely different. When I blend with Katherine, she wants the same thing as a firstborn. She wants smooth, round, lush, but there's a piece of the vineyard. Remember I showed you the piece of the vineyard with the dense component? She always wants to add more dense to that wine than I want. But it's her name, so it's her. So when you drink Katherine, the wine comes in the mouth like this and then does this kick right at the finish. Every time I drink it, I think of Katherine because that's what she's like. She wants to have a little bit more of this dryness, this punch right on the finish, and that's what I get when I drink Kate. And then Hilary, she wants a little bit of everything. So that's why the Hilary wine is the odd one out. I find it very hard to deal with Hilary, very hard to blend with her because she's very finicky. But the last-borns, they're always touchy-feely. So.
Yeah, you always give up on the end.
Are you a last-born, Ryan?
No. Well, I'm the second. I might as well have been the last. Yeah. You always give up on the last, though. They get everything.
No, it's really, really interesting working with your children. I really enjoy it, and yeah. No,
That's really cool. Thank you so much.
No.
Thank you. I've really enjoyed this whole thing. Thank you.
Well, thank you, and thank you for your question as well.
Any other questions?
Yeah, Nick, when are you going to be coming to spend a little time in Jersey like you've done in the past?
I'll be there in a heartbeat. As soon as you guys have got some accounts that I can go visit.
Wow.
No, yeah, really disappointing year for me. Well, so the minister at church asked a couple of us to comment on the year, and I sent a comment back like, my business is screwed, my travel is screwed, I can't make a living, restaurants have gone, blah blah blah. And then I thought, then the second part of the email back to him was the blue sky effect. The blue sky, and I'm going to let you in on a family secret here. So the blue sky effect is, for me, 4 of my 5 children and son-in-law moving home. So 5 adults living in the house with me. It's incredible. I mean, the bank keeps knocking on the door, but I'm having fun. So all of my mates started building bars. All my winemaker friends started building bars at home because all their kids are living at home. I know this is a really weird concept for you guys, but we all have barns on our properties, you know, tractor sheds or whatever. So people start building barns. And so then the kids have started doing these pub crawls, these bar crawls up and around the valley, walking to each other's families' bars. So I said, screw that. I'm making a nightclub. So I made a nightclub at my house. So now they're like, dude, what's the difference between a bar and a nightclub? We all know the answer to that, right? Pole dancing. So I put in a pole. I got the disco, I got 3 disco lights. I bought this big piece of laurel, bay laurel as the butt. I tell you, you guys are going to come to my nightclub. It rocks, man. It rocks. We play nothing but disco. We got dartboards, quoits. My kids have got marijuana growing outside the door. I mean, it's full on. It's full on. It's crazy. And this is the blue sky thing. It's amazing having adult children. I mean, when was the last time you had adult children? When did you last live with your parents? I mean, my kids are in their late 20s and they're living with me. It's unbelievable. And my kids correct me all the time, like, dude, don't make me dinner. Don't make me lunch. I'm an adult dad. I'll take care of it. You know, they've all got their own cars. They live their own lifestyles, but it's been phenomenal. And at the same time, I haven't been able to travel. So not coming to see you guys has actually created a more strong family bond than I could have ever imagined. So it's been incredible.
It's probably the same for most people. That's great to hear.
Yeah. Well, specifically in our area. And we've gone through the fires and together, we've gone through the COVID together. And there's a very interesting thing here in Healdsburg. They call it porch photos. So obviously we've lived here for over 32 years. We've lived in Healdsburg. So a number of projects have occurred. So there's been a lady that's been running around taking photos of everyone who was in quarantine. So there's at the museum now, you can go and see a photo of every family in town. And she took a photo of every family in town. There's a guy that has just published a book called The 100 Days of COVID, the first 100 days, and he took a photo of everything that happened during that first 100 days. And there's just been this huge community bond in our little, our town has 9,500 people, and amazing. It would never have happened without COVID. Oh, and also I'm part of this. It's funny, all your old school friends, you guys probably had the same thing. All your old school friends have started showing up, and every Tuesday night I have a Zoom call with my original school friends from New Zealand. So tonight, because of the time zone difference, at 10 o'clock at night, I'll be on a Zoom call tonight with, guys that I knew when I was 7 and 8 years old. There's 7 of us. Well, one died, but 6 of us. Yeah.
Crazy. Well, I appreciate everyone's time. I know you probably don't want to hang up because Nick is very entertaining, which I told you from the very beginning. Nick, you're the best. I didn't see Yolan on the call, but please send her our best.
She just walked in, actually. Do you want to meet her?
I've met Yolan. He's like, don't put me in the camera.
Yolan, can you pop in for a second? She's just going to come and say hello. Don't ask her about the pole dancing.
So, like, quick story, just to show you like how Nick is like open house. I was out there with Jackson Family Wines with a few reps from Lauber, and Nick called me. He's like, "Hey, I heard you're out here." I said, "Yeah." I said, "We're just hanging out." He's like, "What are you doing?" I said, "I don't know." He said, "Come over." I said, "Well, I'm with 3 reps from Lauber." He goes, "Even better." So we go to Nick's house. Yolan takes out the cheese plate and meats, and we're sitting there for a few hours. They open our home to us, drinking wines for the next few hours with the kids, and it was really great. Hi, Yolan.
Hi, Sean. How are you?
All right. Say hi to Fedway.
It's good to see your team. Oh, Seth, hi. Few faces I know.
Nick just nailed it. You did a great job. You can pay him for another day.
He always does.